Every Sunday morning across America and around the world, millions of people, before or after they attend the regular service at their church, go to a smaller group of people their age and they're taught the Bible in a personal setting. This important weekly hour of Bible teaching is what most churches call Sunday school. Since the late 1700s, the Sunday school has consistently been one of the most effective ministries of the local church in bringing people to Christ, training them in the Scriptures, and helping them grow in their faith. An English philanthropist named Robert Raikes is credited with being the pioneer of the Sunday school movement, beginning in Gloucester, England in 1782. In 1863, an American historian named John Carroll Power published a well-researched book titled The Rise and Progress of Sunday Schools, a biography of Robert Raikes and William Fox. John Carroll Power begins the book by raising this question. The concept of regularly teaching God's Word to people, especially children, has been around since Old Testament times. So how is it that Robert Raikes is credited with being the pioneer of the Sunday school? Mr. Power gives numerous examples of weekly times of religious training throughout history. He quotes Deuteronomy 31, 12 and 13. Gather the people together, men and women and children, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear, and that they may learn, and fear the Lord your God, and observe to do all the words of this law, and that their children, which have not known anything, may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as ye live in the land whither ye go over Jordan to possess it. Mr. Power's examples include John Knox's Sabbath schools in Scotland in the 1500s, and Joseph Alein's Sabbath school in his church in Somersetshire, England in 1688, and John Frederick Oberlin's Sabbath schools in France in 1767. The Pilgrim's Church in Plymouth, Massachusetts had a Sabbath school as early as 1681. John and Charles Wesley and George Whitefield established Sabbath schools in Savannah, Georgia, beginning in 1737. Joseph Bellamy established a Sunday school in Bethlehem, Connecticut in 1740. And Ludwig Strecker, a German Baptist in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, operated Sunday school there in 1740. So why is Robert Raikes, who organized Sunday schools in Gloucester, England, after all of these people, why is he recognized as the father of the Sunday school? The answer is simply that all of the people mentioned had short-lived success. For the most part, their efforts died with their founders. But the pattern that Robert Raikes introduced in 1782 spread throughout the world and has continued around the world to this day. The reason for Robert Raikes' success is basically threefold. First, the use of printed materials. Second, the missionary spirit that had arisen in the churches of England at that time. And third, the assistance of a Christian businessman named William Fox. Robert Raikes' initial burden for his town of Gloucester was not for the children, but for the hopeless plight of prisoners in his town. He first became aware that the county jail was terribly overcrowded and the prisoners weren't being fed. After taking action to provide meals for them, Robert Raikes then began to consider the fact that there was no escaping the life of crime that these men had chosen. Prison seemed to be a dead-end road. He pondered this fact until he ultimately concluded that ignorance was the doorway to crime. So he worked at helping prisoners get educated, to give them the tools to find their way to productivity. But next, he tried to figure out how he could prevent young boys from ever resorting to a life of crime. This question was on his mind day and night for some time. One morning in early 1782, Robert Raikes walked to a nearby town to try to hire a man to be his gardener. The man wasn't home, so Robert waited for him. As he waited, he saw a group of very rowdy boys playing in the street. He asked the man's wife, "Are these boys always this loud?" She said, "You ought to be here on Sundays. The group is so big and loud that nobody has any peace and quiet around here." That gave Robert an idea. He hired 4 teachers to come back with him the next Sunday. He divided the kids into 4 groups, and he had each of the teachers lead one of those groups. This was the beginning of Robert Raikes' Sunday School, and it grew so quickly that after a year, there were Sunday schools all over the city of Gloucester. At that same time, a Baptist deacon in London named William Fox had noticed a great increase in the number of children hanging around in the streets. At the next deacons' meeting, he recommended that they investigate how to teach the Bible to the children in their city. While they were considering what to do, they read of the great success of Robert Raikes' Sunday schools. Robert Raikes and William Fox would ultimately work together to publish textbooks for their Sunday school teachers to use in teaching their students. And they would organize 4,000 Sunday schools, just like the first 4 that Robert Raikes had started. Christian, the need has never been greater than it is right now for people to learn the Scriptures. Stay the course.